The Sterling Motors showroom was a sanctuary of luxury. Every inch of the space was designed to exude exclusivity, from the gleaming marble floors to the crystal-clear glass walls showcasing the latest, most expensive automobiles money could buy. Rolls-Royces, Bentleys, Lamborghinis, Aston Martins, all parked like works of art, waiting for the next ultra-wealthy customer to claim them. At the center of it all, behind a sleek, minimalist desk, sat Victoria Hayes, the showroom's ruthless and highly ambitious manager. Victoria had been in the luxury car business for over 15 years. And she took immense pride in her ability to read people. She could tell in an instant whether a person was truly wealthy or just another wannabe. Their clothes, their watch, the way they carried themselves, everything was a clue. And she did not waste time on people who didn't belong. The bell above the glass door chimed. Victoria instinctively glanced up. A black man had just stepped into the showroom. Her expression hardened immediately. He was tall, well-built, and carried himself with a quiet confidence. But his clothes? A simple black hoodie, dark jeans, and worn-out sneakers. Victoria's jaw clenched. She had seen this type before. People who walked in with delusions of grandeur, pretending they could afford the cars when, in reality, they couldn't even afford the keychains they sold at the front desk. Before her sales team could react, Victoria raised a hand. "I'll handle this one," she said, her tone cool and dismissive. She adjusted her blazer, smoothed her dark blonde hair, and approached the man with practiced authority. "Good afternoon, sir," she greeted, her smile polite but distant. "Can I help you with something?" The man glanced around the showroom, taking his time, his hands casually tucked into his pockets. His deep brown eyes scanned the vehicles as if he were evaluating them. "Yeah," he said, his voice calm. "I'm looking to buy a car." Victoria's smile tightened. "Oh, really? We certainly have an impressive collection," she said smoothly, keeping her tone professional, but her eyes betrayed her skepticism. "Did you have a particular model in mind?" The man nodded slightly, then walked forward, stopping in front of the Rolls-Royce Phantom. Victoria's brows lifted slightly. Of all the cars in the showroom, he chose the most expensive one. The Rolls-Royce Phantom was not just a car. It was a statement. $600,000, handcrafted luxury, built only for the elite. Victoria folded her arms, her nails tapping lightly against her sleeve. "This one," the man said simply, his voice steady and confident. Victoria took a slow, deliberate breath. She had no patience for this. "That's a Rolls-Royce Phantom," she said, emphasizing every syllable, "starting at $600,000. She let the price hang in the air, waiting to see if he would flinch. But he didn't. He didn't even blink. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, studying the vehicle as if he were contemplating a grocery store purchase. Victoria's patience thinned. "It's a custom-built model," she continued, her tone edged with condescension. "These vehicles aren't just bought off the lot. Every detail is designed to the owner's exact specifications. People typically schedule private consultations before even discussing a purchase." She raised an eyebrow, waiting for him to take the hint. But the man just nodded, completely unfazed. "Sounds good," he said. Victoria barely held back an exasperated sigh. "And, how will you be paying?" she asked, her smile turning patronizing. "Lease? Loan?" The man let out a small chuckle, as if amused. "I'll pay in full." Victoria almost laughed in his face. "Oh," she said, feigning surprise. "Really?" The man nodded. At this point, Victoria had heard enough. She had dealt with people like this too many times, men who walked in, dreaming beyond their means, hoping to get a test drive just to show off on social media. She wasn't about to let another one waste her time. "Sir," she said, lowering her voice slightly, as if speaking to a child, "I don't mean to be rude, but these vehicles are made for a very exclusive clientele. For the first time, The man's expression shifted just a little. "Oh," he said, tilting his head slightly. "And what kind of clientele is that?" Victoria gave him a tight smile. "People who understand the value of these cars," she said, choosing her words carefully. "People who belong in this market." She saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Something sharp. Something dangerous. "You don't think I belong?" he asked, his voice still calm. Victoria let out a light laugh, shaking her head. "Look, I'm just being realistic," she said. "I have a trained eye for these things. And I can usually tell who's a serious buyer and who's just." She let the words trail off, leaving the meaning hanging. The man was silent for a moment. Then, he slowly reached into his pocket. Victoria stiffened, but instead of pulling out a wallet, he pulled out his phone. With calm precision, he tapped a few times, then turned the screen toward her. Victoria's breath caught in her throat. On the screen was a banking app. And the balance? Over $250 million. Her entire body went stiff. For the first time in her career, Victoria Hayes was speechless. The entire showroom seemed to go silent. The man's lips curved slightly. "Is that enough for the car?" he asked. Victoria couldn't speak. Her mind scrambled for an explanation. She had just humiliated herself in front of a man who could buy the entire dealership without blinking. A billionaire? Was he an athlete? A businessman? A tech mogul? She didn't know. But she did know one thing. She had just made a terrible mistake. The man glanced around, then sighed. "You know," he said casually, "I actually plan to buy 3 cars today." He turned back to her, his voice still calm, but sharper now. "One for myself, one for my brother, and one for my business partner." Victoria felt the blood drain from her face. This was $1 million sale, and she had just lost it. Before she could even form a sentence, the man turned toward the door. "I think I'll take my business somewhere else," he said over his shoulder. Victoria's stomach dropped. "Sir, wait, But he was already walking away. The glass doors swung shut behind him. And just like that, he was gone. Silence. Her team stared at her. No one spoke. And Victoria knew she had just cost herself everything. Victoria Hayes barely slept that night. She had messed up badly. The moment the black man walked out of the showroom, she had felt it, a sinking dread in her gut that refused to go away. She had tried to laugh it off in front of her employees, pretending like he was just another nobody trying to act rich. But as the evening went on, doubts began to creep into her mind. Who was he? And why the hell did he have $250 million in his account? Victoria had been in the luxury car business for years. She had met celebrities, billionaires, tech giants, but his face wasn't one she immediately recognized. The more she thought about it, the more restless she became. She tried searching online, typing in vague descriptions: black millionaire, businessman, billionaire entrepreneur. Nothing. She even considered calling some of her wealthier clients to ask if they knew anyone like him. But that would mean admitting her mistake, and her pride wouldn't allow that. Instead, she convinced herself that it was a fluke. Maybe he had stolen money. Maybe he wasn't actually that rich. Yes, that had to be it. But when she stepped into the showroom the next morning, everything fell apart. It started with a hushed conversation at the receptionist's desk. Victoria had barely set down her designer purse when she noticed 2 of her employees, Mike and Olivia, huddled over a phone. Whispering frantically, she strode over, heels clicking against the floor. "What's going on?" she demanded. They both whipped around, looking guilty, like kids who had been caught doing something they shouldn't. Olivia hesitated before silently turning her phone screen toward Victoria. It was a news article. Victoria's stomach dropped the second she saw the headline. Billionaire tech mogul Elijah Carter humiliates racist car showroom manager in stunning fashion. Her blood ran cold. She snatched the phone from Olivia's hand and scanned the article. Billionaire Elijah Carter, the CEO and founder of Carter Dynamics, was turned away from a luxury car dealership yesterday after its manager dismissed him as not belonging in this market. What the dealership didn't know: Carter's company is worth over $10 billion, and he could have easily bought every car in that showroom, twice. When asked about the incident, Carter simply said, "I believe in letting people show their true colors." That's exactly what happened yesterday. Victoria felt her entire body freeze. No, this couldn't be happening. Elijah Carter. She knew that name. Everyone did. He was one of the wealthiest tech entrepreneurs in the country. A self-made billionaire who had revolutionized artificial intelligence in finance. And she had humiliated him. In front of everyone. There was more. Victoria's throat went dry as she saw the video attached to the article, a security camera recording from the showroom. Someone must have leaked it. She watched in horror as her own voice played back for the world to hear. These vehicles are made for a very exclusive clientele. People who belong in this market. And how will you be paying? Lease? Loan? And then, the moment that killed her career, Elijah turning his phone around, revealing his $250 million balance, and saying, "Is that enough for the car?" The video had millions of views. Her name, Victoria Hayes, was already trending on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn, with thousands of people calling for her to be fired. Some were even digging up old customer reviews about her, accusing her of similar racial profiling in the past. Her hands trembled. She was finished. The moment Mr. Whitaker, the regional director of Sterling Motors, walked through the glass doors, Victoria knew she was done for. He didn't say a word as he made his way to her office. His expression was thunderous, his lips pressed into a thin, furious line. She scrambled after him, trying to explain herself. "Mr. Whitaker, save it, Victoria." His voice was ice cold. He slammed the office door shut behind them, then threw a printout of the article onto her desk. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he demanded. Victoria opened her mouth, but he didn't give her a chance. "We lost a $2 million sale because of you," he snapped. "Do you know how many investors have been calling me since this morning? How many corporate executives are furious that our brand is being accused of racism?" Victoria swallowed hard. I didn't know who he was." She tried to argue. Whitaker slammed his fist on the desk. "That's the problem," he spat. "You judged him the moment he walked in. You assumed he was some broke wannabe. And now we're paying the price." Victoria felt her world crumbling. "I can fix this," she pleaded. "Let me reach out to Mr. Carter. I'll apologize." "I'll apologize?" Whitaker let out a bitter laugh. "You think a half-assed apology is going to change anything? His video has over 15 million views. People are boycotting us." He ran a hand through his graying hair, looking more stressed than she'd ever seen him. Victoria's heart pounded. She needed this job. She had worked too hard to lose everything now. "Please," she whispered. I've been loyal to this company for years." Whitaker exhaled sharply. "That's why I'm giving you a choice," he said, his voice flat. "You can either resign quietly, or we'll fire you publicly." Victoria felt like the air had been knocked out of her lungs. She wanted to argue, to scream, but she knew there was no coming back from this. Her career was over. With shaking hands, she reached for a pen and signed her resignation letter. Her name, Victoria Hayes, would forever be associated with this scandal. And as she walked out of the showroom for the last time, she knew she had only herself to blame. Elijah Carter didn't celebrate Victoria's downfall. He didn't need to. His lesson had already been taught. As he sat in the private lounge of another luxury dealership, one where the staff had welcomed him with respect, he simply placed his order for 3 new vehicles. And when he walked out, he made sure to leave a hefty tip for the staff. Because at the end of the day, true wealth wasn't just about money. It was about character. And Victoria Hayes? She had none. What do you think about today's story? If you enjoy thrilling and unexpected stories like this, don't forget to leave a comment and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next exciting stories.